Hello, I'm Lanre Lasisi, and this is News Night. Today, we will be considering the Nigerian insurance sector. Insurance as a concept plays an important role in the development of a society because it provides financial protection, supports economic stability, amongst other benefits. It also has benefits for the individual. But it would appear Nigerians generally have a dislike for insurance. Well, that is what the data is telling us. We probed this and other issues with Olusegun Omosehin, the Commissioner for Insurance and CEO of the National Insurance Commission. Thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate you spending the time.
Thank you very much, Larry, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay. I would like to start straight off. You have been in the insurance sector for a long time.
Yes.
And so you have a good background. So maybe if I was to start, I would say, if you look at the landscape now, how would you describe the Nigerian insurance landscape?
Thank you very much, Larry, and that's a very good question. The insurance landscape currently is one I would describe as a mixture of great potentials, but with still some teething challenges. But let me emphasize the potentials first. It's an industry that is currently growing at double digits, and that is very significant. The growth rate in the sector is at double digit currently. And there are significant opportunities in micro-insurance, for example, that there's high demand for those low-end products that actually addresses the needs of individuals and even small businesses. There's potential for growth for Takafu insurance, for example. Takafu is more faith-based kind of product, considering the huge Muslim population of Nigeria. So people tend to look for non-interest kind of insurance policies, products. So we have a huge amount of potential in that regard. And also, with the advent of technology also brings with it a lot of risk. So cyber insurance is a potential area of growth because of the risks that have been associated with technology adoption across the entire value chain of payments, banking, and financial services generally. So in a nutshell, I'll tell you that insurance landscape is one that could see great major potentials, but for some of the challenges which we have. But I'll hold on to those challenges because
we'll get
I'll
into
speak
that.
to them in the course of the conversation.
Just help me here because it's becoming, I think you went a little technical to a large extent when you went into double digits. We're used to double digits when the CBN is talking about interest rates and all. Is double digits good? Yeah. Is it good in your own when you have...
It's actually very great when we talk about growth.
Yes.
Right? Okay, let me simplify this.
Yes.
When you listen to economists speak,
yes,
they will tell you that, okay, for this year, the gross domestic product or national output of Nigeria has grown at a rate of, say, maybe about 3.5%.
Yes.
That is single. It's still up until when it gets to 10, you can't talk of double. But when you have a sector that is growing at about 20% annually, that is significant. Okay. So we're even growing better than the economy itself. Wow. So which is significant. And that's what I meant when I said that we are growing at a double-digit rate. And that has been the trend currently. And we're hoping this will continue for a long time. Because the reason is not far-fetched. Insurance penetration in Nigeria is still very low.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if it's very low and you are progressing that fast.
Thank you.
It's interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing why.
Okay, so let me say this. Insurance penetration in Nigeria is currently sitting at about 1%. of the population of Nigeria that are doing it.
1%.
It's about 1%. Nigeria has a population of about 200 million people.
Yes.
The long-term goal of this administration, of the insurance regulator, is to see how we can move this to about 10%, to about 5% in 10 years. Move this to about 5% in 10 years. And a whole lot of reforms and activities has been put together to make this happen. So the point we are making is because of the low adoption of insurance as a culture for managing our risks in Nigeria,
yes,
we still have a situation where not quite a number of the population are actually taking up insurance as a risk management mechanism. Rather, what you see happening is a situation where maybe perhaps because of our socio-cultural beliefs and what have you, there's a social system that is actually taking the place of insurance. Okay, for example, I'm sure you belong to various groups and associations,
yes,
maybe old student association,
yes,
and what have you. You find that when anything happens, right, there's a call among the group for you to make contributions.
Yes.
And because that is our culture. So in a way, you don't find that, you are donating 50,000 here, blah, blah, everybody pull it together and you give to the individual, as a support.
Yes.
That is the role insurances should be playing, right? Those individuals, what they need to do, perhaps on a periodic basis, maybe at the beginning of a year, is to just pull their resources together into a pool, so an insurance pool.
Yes.
And it will not be up to that. Rather than contributing 50,000, maybe it will have been just a 5,000 naira across all the individual, put together in an insurance pool. And when anything happens to any member, you define what you want, right? Okay? And that amount is then given to that individual, rather than all of you contribute at every point in time. So if those instances happen like 10 times in a year, you contribute 10 times,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But for insurance, you only make that contribution once in a year, right? So typically they will agree a period, maybe 12 months.
Yes.
So at the expiration of that period, right, you are then allowed to renew that product, that policy, and you make another contribution.
These products exist.
It exists, my brother. It exists. As a matter of fact, one of the key findings is the fact that, yes, a lot of Nigerians are unaware of the benefit of insurance as a means to protect you, as a financial protection mechanism. So it's a major problem. And how are we dealing with this? We're embarking on mass education, public awareness, enlightenment campaigns, and what have you. So it's a whole bulk of work that needs to be done. We've commenced a lot of this, and it's never enough, at least for now. And I tell you, what I also expect from this program is this interaction also should be a way of educating Nigerians as to the benefits of insurance and how people can actually take full advantage of the opportunities that insurance as a product potential, particularly in an environment where there's high inflation rate and what have you. So you shouldn't just be dipping money in your pocket, money that is not even there at every point in time.
Let me go back to that, because I'm really, if you were going to give me a figure of the penetration, I did not think it would be 1%. And so it's interesting and shocking that it is 1%. And I'm wondering why, if you consider that Nigeria's economy is one that at one point was one of the fastest growing in Africa.
Yes.
Now, what does that say to the insurance part of it? If we have such an economy that is one of the biggest on the continent, and we still does that say even the business community are not into insurance too?
Okay, thank you very much, Larry, and it's important I try to explain this part very well.
Okay.
The global average, when I talked about the penetration rate of Nigeria being around 1%, the global average is actually around 7%. If you take the average globally, it's around 7%. So we have some gaps to cover. But interestingly, the sector that is actually benefiting from insurance currently is the corporate segment. Is the corporate segment of our society. You know, all the big businesses. Okay. You know, all the major established businesses, multinationals, and all that.
Oil and gas,
aviation,
manufacturing.
The major ones, they are taking up insurance.
Okay.
So, but what is the percentage of that compared to the total population?
Okay.
So, when we are talking about penetration, we are then looking at the percentage relative to the total population. Okay. So, relative to the total population, majority of individuals are actually not taking up insurance. You know, there are several reasons you can adduce to that. Some are due to societal factors. Yes. Some are due to issues around even the public trust that members of the public have in the insurance sector. And that is why I'm here. National Insurance Commission is the regulator, is that agency of the government that is responsible for supervising, regulating, and the development of the sector. So part of also our role is, the second bucket of our role is around consumer protection. We are there to protect insurance consumers such that when they have issues, right, they should come to us. We are their voice. And lastly, the last bucket of our role is as advisor to the government on insurance matters, and also to ensure that all our critical national assets are adequately covered. You know, so in this regard, we then have that responsibility of championing the cause of advocacy, championing the cause of enlightenment and mass education to Nigerian public. So a whole lot of this you see as we move on in the course of this administration.
Okay, I take note of the parts, the way you broke down those three parts. Let me start with the insurance companies themselves. Yes. You are meant to regulate them. Yes. And to a large extent ensure that we don't have people posing as insurance companies. Yes. That are there. How has that been going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. You know, the commission will license and register insurance companies. And these companies are grouped into depending on the focus or their business or line of business. Okay. So these are registered companies that provide services to the Nigerian public. And we get periodic returns from them. And we also monitor the way they run their business in such a manner that the stability of the sector is guaranteed. Okay. So we have what we call the prudential requirements, which are requirements around what their financial status should be at different points in time, and where we do see issues, where there are issues, we're then forced to, if need be, intervene to take some specific regulatory actions. So in a nutshell, ours is a role to ensure the stability of the insurance sector within that bigger space of the financial services sector. Okay, yeah.
So let me now move to the second part, the consumer themselves. And you've spoken about some of the challenges that it appears has led to the low penetration as we have it. What would you say, how have you been trying in terms of also meeting the customers for them to do the turnaround? I know you're saying you're trying to do some distance, but have you gotten any feedback to understand what is the thinking that may need to change?
Larry, that's the greater part of our work now. Okay. You realize if you've looked at research conducted by some specialized institutions or agencies like FINA, that do research on insurance awareness, penetration, and what have you. One key element you'll find that stands strong is the fact that people have complained as to oftentimes when they have claims or they have dispute with operators, they do not know where to go. The place to come is the National Insurance Commission. So what we've done is we've created a unit that handles complaints from the public. We call it the Complaints Bureau. It's a consumer protection unit of the Commission that takes complaints and what have you, displeasure that are experienced by Nigerian people, Nigerian public, and address this squarely with the operators. So we have an adjudication process that will sit and decide on these cases. And oftentimes, I tell you, if we receive complaints, within 24 hours, these are dealt with. Have there been gaps in the past? The answer is yes. But those are things we are working on very strongly to ensure that we quickly address some of these issues. Some of the issues also goes beyond what you see on the surface. Mm-hmm. Some are even issues that has to do with the legal and the regulatory framework upon which the regulator stands. Okay. And I'm happy that we have a process of reform that is currently ongoing. I'm sure you might be aware of the 2024 Insurance Reform Bill, which has passed through the Senate. It's currently with the House of Reps for concurrence. We're hopeful that once this bill is finally assented to by the president, we'll then have a more stable legal and regulatory framework. That's the environment, the legal and regulatory environment on which insurance business will sit more properly, empowering the regulator to take decisive actions at appropriate times, and also allowing the operators to be a lot more, they have the leeway and the proper environment to operate. And of course, one key element you'll find in the new law is the minimum capital requirement that has substantially moved the capital of insurance institution to a much higher level. And that is to give comfort to the Nigerian people, right? In our ability to really stand tall and de-risk the economy. Because what we are providing is that assurance, that comfort, that confidence for all our businesses to go there and venture and take their risk, because we assume the risk from them and then we allow them to go and take those risks. So if anything happens, then that's why the insurance platform is there to take charge of it. And I can tell you, in the area of claims and management of claims and ensuring that the operators live up to their promise, that is why we exist, and we are there to support and protect the Nigerian people.
Just for clarity's sake, when you say you can be reached, is it online?
Yes.
Is it online? How is it? Or you have offices across the...
Okay, thank you very much. As a starting point, we can be reached physically, right? Because our head office is in Abuja, expectedly as the seat of government. But we have offices in zonal offices, about 6 zonal offices across the Federation. We have one in Lagos, because whether you like it or not, the bulk of the operators sits in Lagos. So we have a zonal office, representing us, seated in Lagos. And then we have offices across the other 6 geopolitical zones of the country. So that is on physical. We can also be reached electronically. We have emails that have been, email addresses that have been circulated. We have a portal, a complaint portal that have been created. The emails for reaching us are complaintsbureau@nicom.gov.ng. Complaints Bureau, one word, at nicom.gov.ng. And then we also have market conduct, one word, at nicom.gov.ng. Then we can also be reached on telephone. The telephone number is 0817-240-7735.
You have it off ahead.
Yes. So we can also be reached.
Okay, I like that. But I like the fact that you said the issue is to also reform the sector.
Yes.
Am I supposed to then take it that if that bill passes, we might see some restructuring in the sector, recapitalization of companies coming together and forming?
Thank you, Larry. That's the whole idea. There's a whole lot of reforms going on now. But what will make it evident and people can see clearly the Nigerian public will be the passage of that bill.
Okay.
It will help a lot in helping us to then put all of that out there.
Okay.
Even as we speak, there's a whole lot of reforms. Reforms around claims payment, for instance. Since the advent of the new leadership of the commission,
Yes.
Our mantra is simple: find a reason to pay a claim. Every operator in this market knows that, because we have zero tolerance to non-settlement of genuine claims. So we have that understanding with the operators. And in all honesty, they've all risen to, that level that we're even very proud of.
To a large extent, Nigerians buy insurance. Because when you want to do your registration,
Yes.
immediately you get there, part of what comes as a total package is the license, the roadworthiness, and the insurance.
Unfortunately, Nigerians are buying the wrong insurance. So let me educate you on this.
Okay.
And that is why it's very important.
Yes.
I've had all manners of stories when this partnership started.
Yes.
And by the way, I would like to use the opportunity to commend the Inspector General of Police for that decisive action to really massively enforce compulsory insurances, compulsory motor insurance nationwide, right? Yes, that has been the job of the police.
Yes.
But there's a renewed commitment, a renewed vigor, right, to that assignment. And I can also tell you in like manner, the Federal Road Safety Corps
Yes.
has also joined, they are collaborating with us on same to ensure that there's total commitment in enforcing compulsory third-party motor insurance. And why, I hear of some individuals that even want to be popular, when to take the Nigerian police to court, right, for enforcing a provision in the law. I'll tell you this. Third-party motor insurance is mandatory by the provision of the law.
Yes.
The Motor Vehicle Third-Party Motor Insurance Act of 1941, Section 3, subsection 1, which was even reenacted in 2003 in Section 68, subsection 1 of the Insurance Act 2003, made it mandatory. And the wordings were clear. It says, no person shall use, cause to use, or authorize the use of a motor vehicle on Nigerian road without a policy of insurance. And the reason is simple. That machine you put on the road that you call a motor vehicle poses danger to other road users. And that was the genesis why societies all over the world then mandated that anybody that owns a vehicle must make provision to cover the risk that the machine poses to other road users, including properties, pedestrians, and what have you. Because that machine can misbehave, can malfunction. And when it does, there's always consequences. Liabilities are huge in most instances. And that is the reason. And mind you, the cost of buying that mandatory cover is so cheap. In Nigeria, it's 15,000 naira. 15,000 naira compared to the cost of your vehicle. There's no vehicle standard, I can say, that is below $10,000. But that 15,000, I'm sure, is below $10 if you convert with current rate. But that gives you protection, peace of mind. You don't need to prostrate to anybody if there's an accident. So if I run into your vehicle from the rear, maybe from the exhaustion of the day's work, right, and all I hear is bam, the next thing is, of course, I will say the normal sorry. I'm so sorry. And then the next is to exchange my insurance papers. Because adequate protection has been made. You don't need to engage in fighting, in slapping each other, using abusive words. It's unnecessary.
Or removing your, what's that, tire?
Yes. You do not require all that.
Now,
and again,
yes.
beyond that, because I need to state this, that 15,000 has guaranteed you you have a cover for private motor, for example, 3 million. Provided the damage you cause is no more than 3 million on the undercar, is settled. And God forbid, because we've had instances where it's an accident. You run into someone or pedestrian and you kill the person, right? You are sorry for it, but the liability is unlimited. So the family has to be compensated. Some of them are breadwinners.
And
they have children.
cover
Insurance will pay those benefits. Will pay the beneficiary good amount to make life easier for their beneficiaries.
I would like you to continue on the part you were trying to touch on when we mentioned the issue of possible fake insurance policies that it appears Nigerians have been picking up.
Okay. Thank you very much, Larry. And this is one major area also I would love to educate Nigerians.
Okay.
Because the bulk of the misunderstanding comes from not buying the right policies, right? Yes, it is mandatory. Yes, Nigerians must buy. But where are they buying those policies from? NAICOM has a list of licensed insurance companies in Nigeria. That list is pasted on our website, and we make it available. In short, recently we did a publication across all the print media where we've stated the list of all motor underwriters so that people can know. But yes, we know that sometimes we have some unscrupulous people that, they ride on the ignorance,
Yes.
of the public. Yeah. So we have instances where people have claimed, for instance, they go to licensing offices, and you have some of these individuals that parade themselves around those licensing offices,
Yes.
and they just print papers unknowingly to members of the public and give to them. And that is why we are engaging and collaborating with all other government agencies, right, in this respect. So we are collaborating with the Nigerian police, we're collaborating with Federal Road Safety, and also we've commenced engagement with the VIO to see how they can assist in reducing these incidences, right? Because Nigerians need to get the right policies. Beyond this, we've created a platform where people can even confirm whether what you've been sold is the right policies. It's a digital platform where you just put your plate number, right? And on a click, once you have internet service,
Yes.
right, you can confirm whether what was sold to you on the spot, if it is genuine or fake. Once you know your vehicle registration number. In like manner, where you do not have access to internet,
Yes.
we've also created the one with a USSD code, right? That you can click, put the code, and it will tell you whether or not that policy is genuine. So it's a process that Nigeria really needs to understand and work with us. Perhaps also on the part of the sector, I'm not sure we've done enough in terms of education and enlightenment and making this consistent on a regular basis to keep educating Nigerians.
No, I think we would agree that the industry has not
done
because
enough.
anytime
Okay.
when I saw that enforcement
Right,
it I was like, from where? Because I do know to a large extent insurance policies is one of the easiest things because they won't even allow you move. You can't do it. And this is done in government agencies. So when you now
the question is, what kind of policies were those people selling? Who are they selling for?
now the question,
Who are they representing?
but the question could also be, what is the regulator doing to ensure that those people who pose as insurance companies are also taken out of the market?
Yeah, good question. And that is why I've spoken to the issue of collaboration.
Yes.
Now, if you realize that the bulk of the people in licensing offices
Yes.
are mostly the vehicle inspection officers, VIO.
Yes.
And that's why the collaboration between
be very-
NICOM and those VIO will come handy. We have, what's it called? Engagement have been outlined in the next few days. Maybe I won't be speaking to specific days,
No.
where we are meeting with the leadership and hopefully we'll get the necessary collaboration that is required, just like we've had with other agencies who are working closely with us on this project because the advantage is to Nigeria and to Nigerians.
More to Nigerians.
More to Nigerians. Honestly.
From all you've said, is more to Nigerians because
Nigerians
actually, they still pay those charges. So if you have,
except that they are paying to the wrong people.
Apart from paying to the wrong people, if an accident occurs, and accidents occur almost every day. You fix the person's car, you fix your car, and if there's any other damage, you will still bring money out to do that. And to understand that that could have been taken care of by just the policy is something that I think a lot of Nigerians will look forward to. But I would like us to go to the issue of implementation.
Yeah.
Because Nigerians are usually very worried when it comes to, you hear declarations, especially from the police, where you now hear the police are going to enforce. It's like the tinted glass permit thing. Sometimes you now get to one part of the country that is far away from the center, and it will be like the gentleman you are talking with has a different understanding of what the popular or the official position is. How do you intend to work with these partner organizations to ensure that it doesn't become another problem for the Nigerian driver or insurance claim holder?
Thank you, Larry. Once again, I think this is very major. We recognize the need to consistently even educate our partners, our partner agencies in this process. Yes. That is why for each of these partnerships, our collaboration, yes, we set up a technical committee that works with the agency. What are they doing? There's regular update, regular education, even enlightenment to those agencies. Okay. But for third-party motor insurance that we're discussing, I think it's pretty clear because the same provision, the same act that made it mandatory also made provisions for consequences for non-compliance.
Okay.
It's in the same act. So, and that's why Nigerians need to be careful because that provision is clear. It's 250,000 naira. If you are caught, yes.
Was that a reviewed figure? Was that a reviewed figure? That's the one in the.
That's the one in the old act.
Wow.
In the one that's going through the current one. By the time we review, certainly it's going to move. So what I'm saying is that when you have an opportunity to buy something for 15,000, but non-compliance will make you pay 250,000 or imprisonment or both. Right? That's the provision of the law. So people need to, it's not police now. Police are merely implementing the provisions in the law.
Okay.
Right? So we should be very mindful of that. I know I've had a lot coming from social media and what have you, but also I would like to appeal to Nigerians and even influencers and opinion molders to see how they can use some of those medium of expression to actually, those platforms to really educate Nigerians rather than picking the negatives around it. One key element I realized I must explain properly.
Yes.
Because based on your analysis, I realized I needed to speak to this. Third-party motor insurance only provides for the third party, the other person's
car,
the other person's vehicle,
yes,
or other person's property, or
the other person affected.
Exactly, that is affected. It doesn't cover you, the owner.
Yes.
The only advantage you have as the owner might be non-financial, peace of mind for having financial protection in case you run into anybody. Also, the fact that you've met with the requirements of the law, because that's what you are required to do.
Minimum.
Anyway,
that's the minimum.
The minimum requirement of. So if you don't want something that will protect your own self or your own vehicle, or damage to your vehicle, then you need to go a bit higher, which is the comprehensive cover.
Okay.
But that is not a mandatory thing. That's optional.
Yes.
Now, depending on the size of your pocket,
yes,
and what
and the
you want.
amount of peace of mind you
want. Yes.
Okay. Now, help me understand this. Insurance is not only on business and vehicles or whatever. Yeah. Do you cover insurance for health and other? Does that fall under your purview?
That is one great area of potential that this market has.
Okay.
there's huge, in short, insurance covers almost every aspect of life. There's insurance for agriculture, all the farmers, they have, in short, as a matter of fact, in Nigeria, it is a specialist area. So we have specialists that provide agric insurance for farmers. We have specialists that provide health insurance for Nigerians. And you can notice a major area of need for Nigerians, right? You can buy a small cover for your health in such a way that when there are challenges, you call on this cover. So your medical bills and whatever tests and what have you will be taken care of. These are things that will take the burden off you when eventually it happens. There are cover for even cyber security risk that we talk about. There are provisions of cover for it. Of course, the people that currently enjoys insurance are those in oil and gas, because majority of those areas, that sector is highly governed. So there are provisions for insurance, even in their contracts. So they are forced to do it. But what is their number compared to the total population? People in aviation, you can't put an aircraft, for instance, on the Nigerian airspace without a valid insurance cover. As a matter of fact, it's even more governed in Nigeria than most other environments, because the regulator must sign up, the two regulators, both NCAA and National Insurance Commission, must confirm that you have a valid insurance on those aircraft. So those are things that Nigerians enjoy without even knowing. And for aircraft, the airline operators have bought cover even for passengers, because there are legal requirements they must meet around passenger liability. So they pay for all of those covers. But now let's bring it down to national other spheres.
Yes.
When passengers are moving from Lagos to Ibadan, for example, or Abuja to Kaduna, and they are in a passenger vehicle, in a commercial vehicle, are they covered? Do those transporters even know that they need to make provision to cover those passengers, so that when there are accidents, and these are things we are talking about, there should be less pain? Because an accident is a scenario where you want to, as much as possible, minimize the pains to the victims. You want victims of road accident to have less pain, because the accident already caused pain. But you want to minimize that experience, and be able to bring them back to normal lives. That is what we are talking about.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that we can also do this for agric.
Yes.
Which is part of what our country appears to have a lot of potential in. What would you say is then our major problem between this untapped? Because the way you explain it now, it looks like something anybody would jump at, between the untapped potential and our inability, or the inability of the industry to meet this.
I know the federal government has done a lot in the agric space,
Yes,
in terms of making provision for agric insurance for farmers. I'm aware of a scheme that the federal government is running, the Anchor Borrowers Program, where farmers under that scheme have been insured by the federal government. The federal government actually pay for them, right? But where the challenge is for those farmers on their own to be able to see the need for them to make provision, because most of the risks they're exposed to can be granted cover, right? Whether it's bad harvest, destruction by insect, pest, and what have you, or if there's too much rainfall and all of this. These are areas that are already fully developed, because underwriters can actually rate those risks, collect small premium, and in the event it happens, pay compensation to those farmers. And this has been happening. So I'm not telling you what is new.
Do you feel we have, or that the Nigerian insurance industry is, how would I put it, bringing up enough unique products to meet the market? I found it interesting the other day to find out that in some places, in some countries, there's something like it doesn't mean once you pay an insurance and then nothing happens, that money you paid is gone. You understand? There's some sort of, whether you pay back, you get back some percentage or some part of it, if something, there are conditions. And it, to me, makes it interesting and viable for somebody to now think of if that was also a factor. Are we doing enough in the industry to bring up unique products?
Frankly, Larry, I can confirm to you that that's still an area we need to do much more than we are doing currently. The operators will be in a better position to speak to this.
Yes.
But as a regulator, I can tell you that there's need for operators to come up with innovative products that will speak to the specific needs of Nigerians. Nigerians need to be able to relate with some of these products. I take, for example, we have, if you look at telco, the mobile insurance and what have you, can better address some of the needs of the young ones, for example. So there's therefore the need to be a bit more innovative, digital technology driving some of the distribution channels, because I think we've dwelt or we spent too much time on the traditional models of distribution. So there's therefore the need for operators to adopt and really look at other emerging channels of distributing their products. And that is why on the regulatory side, we are providing that platform. As a matter of fact, we've created a new directorate within the National Insurance Commission. We call it Directorate of Innovation and Regulation. So we're trying to, as a matter of fact, simplify that process and allow operators to be able to innovate. So we are creating that platform. We have an innovation hub we've just created where people can come and even test, ideas, right? We're happy to allow you, okay, excellent idea. We don't know how it's going to plan out, but go out there, go and work with it. So we can work with operators. We want to be able to encourage them to do things from the conventional. Yes, the regulator have a major part to play, even in terms of understanding the uniqueness of the times and be able to approve those products to the operators. It's still our role to approve products, approve rates. So if the regulator is operating totally different at variance with the trends and what is going on in the market, it becomes a problem. So we are also educating ourselves and putting ourselves out there to really understand the trends so that when those ideas come from the market, we can better appreciate them and be able to, give them, quick approval without delaying that process. So there's a whole lot of soul searching that is going on.
And reforms,
like I told you. Yes.
Very good.
But
now,
clearly, you're on the right spot.
Okay, now let me take you in another direction. The economy right now is one that is very challenging. Yeah. I think it's a word that a lot of people have used. Some have used more heated words. But how has the industry, how has it coped with the change? How would you say the industry has coped?
Interestingly, that's why people do not understand insurance. Insurance is actually designed for a time like this. Insurance is designed not when things are rosy and everybody is okay. Insurance is designed for that time where it becomes, uncertainty becomes higher.
Yes.
If you lose your asset, it becomes a lot more difficult to replace them. That's why you have insurance.
Yeah, but if it's too much, it becomes a problem. Because, like, for instance, when the fire happened in, California?
Yeah, yes.
Everybody was worried that it would be too much load, too much call in for the insurance company. So that's what I'm asking.
No, in insurance, we call that one a catastrophic event, right? Yes, there's that room where once in a while you have a catastrophic event that is major to
like
a
a
nation.
Run on a bank.
Yeah, and in that instance, you find out that the government will come in and all of that to assist. So it shouldn't be in every case. But in the case of Nigeria, the situation is different.
Yes.
A little fire at Ojuwoye market or Balogu market, everybody is calling on government. At what time is government going to have time to do other things? Those are the ones that should be within the realm of insurance, right? So all of those should be within. Anyway, back to your question. How has insurance fared at a time like this? I tell you, that's why I was very glad to announce to you that the sector is growing at double digits, even now.
Okay.
Because this is when the relevance of insurance can be seen. There's no major multinational in this country today that will run for one day without insurance. No major factory will own their machine without an insurance cover confirmed. Why? Because if anything happens, they cannot replace those machines. So they need protection, financial protection. The only missing gap is when they get those claims, they don't go on air to announce. The insurance has paid me. Everybody keeps quiet. And
Yes.
So it's when there's a problem that people go to network news to make those announcements.
Or tell their neighbors.
Or tell their neighbors. But when they get claims, they don't even want them. They quickly close their door, and what have you. But just on a lighter note, I can tell you that at a time like this, insurance fares better. Anywhere in the world, whether it's in Nigeria, South Africa, or even in Europe and America. So it's a time for us to really embrace that concept and be able to protect our assets.
Okay, now Nigeria is planning, looking big. It's a $1 trillion dollar economy. That's where we've set our eyes.
Yes.
How is the insurance sector preparing for
how
that?
Prepared are we?
And how are you contributing to that?
Awesome. That is one major area of focus. You are well aware of the ambition of Mr. President to be able to deliver a $1 trillion economy by 2030. And to this extent is a major ambition which we've all bought into. On the insurance side, on the insurance sector, we are fully aligned in terms of what we want to do. And that's why the reforms are started. One key element that will drive the preparedness of insurance is in terms of increasing the capitalization of the insurance operators. And that has already started. We're only waiting for that legal framework to be true and signed off by Mr. President, and we can, kick off that process. Essentially, our contribution will be in the area of de-risking the economy. Okay. So the question to us is, how does the insurance sector de-risk a $1 trillion economy? So what are the elements, what are the ingredients that we require? And those are the parts we are putting in place. And honestly, I tell you, we are very much aligned.
Would you say that the cost of doing business in Nigeria, has actually been high because we've not taken advantage, or businesses and entrepreneurs have not taken advantage of insurance covers?
Yes, I'll say yes. I think most entrepreneurs have not taken full advantage, especially our SMEs and what have you. They've not taken full advantage of the financial protection that insurance offers. Hence, when they have incidences and what have you, they go back to the meager money they've made to now make additional provision.
Which drives up the cost of doing business.
Which is not necessary. Those are costs that should have been passed on to the professionals who are the risk managers, right? Those are areas that still require some education. We're working closely even with some of the development agencies that are giving loans and facilities to SMEs in terms of embedding and being able to educate, those SMEs on the concept of insurance so as to minimize the risk that they are exposed to. But clearly you are right, and I totally agree with you that they've not fully gotten the values they should have gotten from insurance. Hence, it affects, the total cost they are putting into that business. Yes, it's a small additional cost at the onset, but it comes to, the benefit is enormous. And then you can also go to bed at night and sleep, because you don't have to stay up at night watching your shop and saying, I hope armed robbers will not come, because you've taken up insurance.
Thank you very much. It's been a very lovely time.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
It's been nice talking to you.
Well, as that saying goes, time compels us to finish what we start, and so we must. Thanks for spending your time with us. I look forward to getting your reactions and comments on this discussion. Our social media handles and email address is here for you to reach out with your views, questions, or thoughts. You can also play back any episode. Just go to Channels TV on YouTube, search for Newsnight under playlist, and select. It's on this note I sign out. Bye.